What is going on, Jets fans? DTereman back after a long, unplanned hiatus from the channel. Today, I want to talk about a new addition to the Jets roster, as well as my expectations for the Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson contracts extensions that should be coming in the coming weeks. But first, I do want to extend the biggest thank yous to everybody who wished me a speedy recovery. Since about the last week of May, it's just kind of been hell for me. I had a battle with strep throat in a reaction to an antibiotic that I did not anticipate having. So I needed to go back to urgent care and get a second antibiotic that did work. And then on the way home from the second urgent care visit, I was in a car accident. My ex-wife and I were T-boned. She was driving, I was passenger. We were hit on my side. A lot of people know this by now, but for those who don't, that's why I've been gone for the last couple weeks. I appreciate every single person who has reached out and said to have a speedy recovery. I feel a lot better now. It still hurts, to laugh, to sneeze, cough, those types of things, dealing with a couple fractures, but we're back. My plan is to be back indefinitely. I don't plan on taking more hiatuses from the channel. So I do appreciate everybody's warm wishes, everybody's patience throughout this time. The first thing I do want to talk about today, Jets related, they did add a kicker, Harrison Mevis. He played for 4 seasons at the University of Missouri, where he had 99% success rate on his extra points and 84% success rate on his field goals, including a 61-yard game winner in 2023 against Kansas State that ended up being a SEC record. So clearly he has a boot. When you look at him in size, he gives you all of the Sebastian Janikowski vibes. He's 5'11", 236 pounds. You can almost picture him walking out, holding the beer or a cigarette as he's getting ready to kick because he's got the gut and everything. So not quite sure if he's even going to make the team. I think he's going to push UDFA Caden Davis from Ole Miss to be in that competition, as well as Anders Carlson, the retained kicker last year who we got from Green Bay 2 seasons prior, who did okay for the Jets down the stretch. So looks to be a 3-headed kicker competition as of right now, with Carlson having the leg up, no pun intended. So Mevis is added to the roster, although they are not practicing for the next couple weeks, so we won't know how good or bad he is doing for at least a couple more weeks. Now, on to the main topic. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, they're due for the extensions. That's no surprise. They've both talked about it at the podium with the media after practice during OTAs and minicamp. They both say all the right things. They want to be here for the long term. They want to help this team turn it around because it's been way too long since this team has been turned around. So when you have your bright young players who are excited to be part of the future, you have to compensate them accordingly. I'm just going through the contracts on overthecap.com. And realistically, I genuinely think you can give Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson matching contracts, and it works for both positions. So at the cornerback position, we all know Derek Stingley is the new highest paid cornerback. He signed a 3-year deal worth $90 million with over $85 million guaranteed. So just about his entire contract was guaranteed. $30 million per season AAV. And second in line is J.C. Horn from the Carolina Panthers. He is at a $25 million a year mark. And that brings up Sauce Gardner. In my opinion, Sauce Gardner deserves to be the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. 2 all-pro seasons in his first 3 in the league. Obviously, he's coming off a down year where many people that wore the Jets green and white last year had a down year. So you can't really fault him for that. Obviously, coaching or lack thereof didn't help the situation either. And now he's saying he thanks his new coaches every day for putting him in the best position to win. Does that mean Saleh and Ulbrich didn't put him in the best chance to win? Maybe, maybe not. I just don't think it was as consistent as we're going to see moving forward under Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes. I think this change in regime is going to be good for Sauce. You're going to play more man coverage, potentially shadowing your number one receivers. Finally, something Jets fans have been screaming about for the first 3 seasons of his career, to be honest. So I'm going to talk through Sauce and Garrett and then give the number at the end because I genuinely think it should be the same contract. But I do believe Sauce is in line to become the highest paid cornerback on an annual average value basis within, before they start training camp on July 22nd. Now you flip over to the wide receiver position. Garrett Wilson, to me, I think he deserves to be paid like a top 10 wide receiver at minimum. But when you look at the top 5 contracts at the position, you have Jamar Chase making $40 million a year, Justin Jefferson making $35 million a year, CeeDee Lamb comes in at $34 million per year, DK Metcalf comes in just shy of $33 million per season, AJ Brown on the Eagles, $32 million per season, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown, $30.002 million per year. That is your top 6 at the wide receiver position on an annual average basis. When I'm looking at those numbers, I think Garrett Wilson should probably crack the top 6 and be a little bit higher paid than Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I have Garrett currently placed at the number 6 wide receiver in terms of annual average value. And again, these contracts are going to be the same for Garrett and Sauce. In my opinion, you can do the exact same deal. And that is going to be 4 years at $121 million. So that breaks down to $30.25 million on an annual average for both Garrett and Sauce. And that would put him a little bit higher than Amon-Ra St. Brown, cracking that top 6. Obviously, I said before, Garrett would be number 1 in the league on annual average. And I think it's justified. Garrett Wilson is an ascending player. He's averaged over 1,000 yards per season. He's coming off a 7-touchdown, 1,100-yard performance last year where he was basically phased out of the offense once they got Davante Adams. It was great in the first half when he was being peppered with targets, 23, notably in London against the Vikings. So I do think Garrett and Sauce should be the first $100 million players in New York Jets franchise history. 4 years, $121 million. It seems like a lot of money. I do think the Jets have it. They have, I think, 4th lowest cash spent on payroll, according to Rich Cimini's latest article on Sunday afternoon. So there is a world where Woody Johnson ponies up the money and keeps his 2 best players on the team for roughly the next half decade. You have to factor in the fact that they have their 5th-year option as well next year. So this 4-year contract won't even start until 2027. And then you have them for 4 more years after. So you're looking at holding on to these guys as long as you can, at least the next half decade, in my opinion. They're very much worth paying. Your young, bright players, speaking highly of the new regime, speaking highly of the changes they want to see happen on this team. Everything points to let's pay these guys, and I think that they should. So 4 years, $121 million. Just write it up for both players. Let me know in the comments, is that not enough money for Sauce and Garrett? Is that maybe too much money for Sauce or Garrett? I really want to hear your feedback. Again, I appreciate everybody's patience throughout this, I guess, hiatus that I had to take. And we'll be back probably 2 or 3 times a week with any news that happens between now and camp. It's obviously slow season, but I still want to put out content for you guys. I have summer rankings we're going to get into as well. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. And until next time, let's go Jets.